Gareth, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you for having me, Jay. I am Gareth Grundlingh. To those who don't know, I've been in Saudi Arabia for 10 years. I'm a holistic health practitioner. I believe my main purpose in life is to help people get healthy and to rid them of all the dis-ease that is either physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Okay. How did you move to Saudi?
At the time, 2016, I was working in Cape Town and I was working 4 jobs, not making and saving too much money after working from something like 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. most nights. And I knew that I wanted to make more money. I knew that I wanted to go in the direction of the Middle East. And so it just so happened that Saudi Arabia worked out first. And from there, it wasn't easy at first, but I persevered. And from there, thankfully, there's a lot of beauty that's opened up since.
What was your main entry point to Saudi?
As myself then, it was purely as a fitness coach. And I've evolved into a health practitioner because fitness is only one component of health. So I came in initially through that avenue, and it's grown and expanded since.
What was that transition like, culturally and
Mm.
professionally, like moving to Saudi,
Mm.
from being a health trainer into being a holistic coach?
Yeah.
What was the transition like?
Look, coming from South Africa to Saudi Arabia in 2016 was not easy.
Mm.
There was a lot of cultural differences. Thankfully, I had a mission that I was working towards. And so putting up what was at then sometimes difficult, I was able to go through that. But thankfully, Saudis are very hospitable people. So they were welcoming from the beginning. I've been very lucky that I've also been around good foreigners from the start. I met you early in my days here. So there was enough good people around me that made integrating into Saudi Arabia very good.
How was working with Saudi people at the beginning?
At the beginning, it took some adjusting. I mean, from a language and cultural and religious perspective, only a few years ago, I became a Muslim, but at first I was not. From South Africa, I was not a very practicing religious person. I was always a believer. But of course, in Saudi Arabia, that's the cornerstone of most people, is that they have this religious grounding. So that was definitely a big difference. From a working perspective, look, when you're working in fitness, when you're working in gyms, other than language and the exact environment, it's not that different. Movement is a universal language. So when a person is going up and down, I'm still looking at the same sequence or the same shapes, and that wasn't too difficult.
Now, what do you do now?
Now, as a health practitioner, look, I still work one-on-one with people, which is a wonderful thing. A lot of my work is online through Healthy Human. I do consult to some businesses as well from the health perspective. And I enjoy investing, although I would not consider that to be a full-time job. Yeah.
So now, has your relationship with the people on a day-to-day basis has changed?
In what sense?
So, like you said before that you're watching the language of movement, but now you're more in a one-on-one personal training, coaching,
Yeah.
and you're also doing businesses with Saudi. Has that changed on a day-to-day basis?
Yes. I mean, moving from a gym environment to a more personalized environment has
Yes.
definitely been a change. I would say the evolution of my work has been that I was purely a fitness coach that was purely focused on strength and conditioning. That's now moved towards what I would consider to be whole body health or holistic health. I'm a lot more concerned about someone's mental, emotional, and sometimes even spiritual state, whereas before it was purely a physical focus. I'm a lot more attentive towards all of their lifestyle, that being nutrition, hydration, sleep, breathing, thinking, and moving. And previously, I only worked in the realms or in the movement area.
How's your life and business changed in the last year?
In fact, it was meant to change a lot more than what it did. I was intending and supposed to leave Saudi Arabia. So I was married and then divorced, and there was a plan to go to Switzerland. So whilst there were big plans to change, very little of my environment has changed, but my plan has changed in a big way. And perhaps that's a lot less tangible. But coming back to Saudi or never leaving Saudi has given me an opportunity or a blank canvas to now decide what is it that I truly want from life and what is it that I'm willing to give. When I initially got here, I was 22 years old. Now things are very different. I'm not a 22-year-old that has a few basic needs. I want to start a life. I want to build a family. I'm considerate towards what the very long-term future is, be that 20, 30, or 40 years from now. So I want to say my objectives are much bigger than when I initially got to Saudi.
Yeah. For the listeners who didn't know, how long have you are you staying now in Saudi?
Now I'm going on 10 years.
10 years
So
now.
we're approaching a decade.
Time flies, eh?
Yeah. I have this idea in my mind called the decade in the desert.
Oh,
And it's been a spectacular time, yes.
yeah. So obviously, like your life and like everything has changed, and you've also grown as not only as a human, but in business wise also you've grown knowledge, and of course, staying in Saudi, it's a very nice life. We have the what do you call this? We have the chance to earn more compared to where we came from. Yeah. So how was your relationship with money has changed as you've earned more whilst being in Saudi?
Yeah, that's definitely an important question and a big topic. So I'll start with this. My initial intention when I was coming to Saudi, number one was to further myself in my career and to further myself in my studies. Number two was to travel more. I've always loved traveling. I have an aunt in my family who doesn't have kids, so she's traveled to over 50 countries, over 30 states. That's always been something I've loved. And Saudi Arabia is obviously a very central point on the map, which makes it a lot more accessible to travel relative to South Africa, which is far south. My sister lives in Scandinavia, so I was also going to be closer to her, and I have the opportunity to visit her more often. Thankfully, I've been able to visit her on an almost yearly basis. So those were two very important factors. And then the third one was to earn and save money whilst funding those pursuits, right? In Africa, it's commonly known that all sectors pay better in the Middle East.
Okay.
So that is always a factor in the back of people's mind. What I've learned about money is that money is a tool. Obviously, there is that saying, money can't buy happiness, which I agree, because I've seen a lot of people with a lot of wealth that are not happy. But money is definitely a tool. For me, it is a tool to help people, and it is a tool to liberate myself and to liberate myself from stresses of life. That's an ongoing pursuit. It's not always easy. There are ups and downs. But yes, that relationship with money, which was once from a place of scarcity, growing up with not much, and then coming into more financial wealth, I had to learn a lot, but I also had to transform that relationship to money is now, it's a form of abundance if used correctly.
Can you summarize like an important lesson in finance that you've learned since coming to Saudi?
What I would say is that you must learn to invest, right? And I have this idea in my head that everyone is an investor, not only in money, but you are investing your time and you are investing your energy. Those three currencies, to me, time, money, and energy, are really the most important things. Most people, especially when you're coming from not having a lot of money, they think money is the only currency. When you hopefully get more money, you will learn that time and energy are as important, if not more important. At a certain point, money is not the main currency. So what I've learned is that everyone must become an investor. right? The important thing from a financial perspective of investing, what I've learned is that your job, your salary will not make you rich. It will not liberate you, right? There is too much demands and pressure from life that most people's salaries will be able to create pure financial freedom. So you must take a portion of your income, I would suggest 10%, as a monthly endeavor and invest that. How you want to invest that is your choice. I have studied extensively some of the best investors in the world, and I found what works for me as to where I want to put that money. The short and sweet answer is into the S&P 500, which is a global index of basically America and the best businesses in America. And in constantly putting money into that every month, that will grow and grow and grow over time. I recently spoke to one of my greatest mentors, and we agreed on the fact that compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. As money continues to grow, it can make more money by itself. You and I, in our time and energy, are very finite. Our work cannot liberate us. Our money can. I learned a lesson, which I want to say I learned the hard way, but I heard from someone that every dollar you have is an employee of yours. The beauty of the dollar is that it works 24/7, right? If you invest it correctly, it is always working for you. It never needs leave. It doesn't have emotions, right? Your job is to take a piece of your salary and your monthly income and put it to work so that it's working for you and you are not constantly working for it.
That's a good tip.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people definitely would want to listen to that, would want to know that, because like also coming from a country which is not very, very wealthy. No, or I think it is wealthy, but just not the leaders who is abusing it and all that. Don't want to go into the topic of that. But definitely a lot of us, a lot of my fellow Filipinos are struggling financial wise. And like for them, I think they always want to earn more. This is a very, very common misconception. Like, this is a very, very common way of thinking back home, that they always want to work more and until they kill themselves or until they kill themselves. And by the end of, like, when they're 30, 40, and 50, the thing that you said, also time and also time is also your currency. By the age of 60, 40, that's where they start enjoying all the things that they've earned for. And they're actually not enjoying, because they go on a trip, they sleep. They go on a trip, they can't even walk. They cannot even see the scenery and all this. So that's a very, very good tip of yours.
I would also say that we must understand, as I said, our time and energy is finite.
Yeah.
Right? We as human beings, we have emotions. We have biological clocks. We will wear down. Like I said, money, the dollar, it doesn't have that.
It doesn't have it.
If it's working correctly for you, it will liberate you.
Yeah.
I can think of nothing worse, and I've seen it time and time again, especially from a South African perspective, than a person getting to 65, which is technically retirement age, but they have to keep working because they don't have enough money to fund their life thereafter. Most people don't die at 65. In my mind, I would like to be able to retire in the next 10 to 15 years. That doesn't mean I will. I would like to have the finances in place and the systems in place that I no longer need to generate my own daily income. And that can only happen by investing smartly, wisely, and consistency over time and letting that money build up until it is doing all the work for you.
Yes, true. What has been some of the biggest life lessons in the recent years?
This is a big topic.
Yeah.
Look, I would definitely say, obviously, faith has been a very, very big coming into my life. As I mentioned earlier, I was born and raised in what is a Christian society. Unfortunately, the society I came up in South Africa was kind of just theoretically Christian. Many people were not practicing Christianity per se. I've never been to church with my parents or my family, never. And so faith has definitely been the biggest lesson. Within faith, I would refer to it as trust. And I say that firstly because I know, irrespective of your religion, every religion requires trust in the greater power, whether it is God, Allah, Yahweh, Mother Nature, however you want to conceive of it, this requires trust. In Islam, we say tawakkul, which is being in trust to, the Creator.
Okay.
That for sure has been the biggest lesson. And by the way, I've not mastered that. As I say it, I'm still working on it. Time and time again, I have to go back to that. I surrender, and He's in control. The second lesson, which has been a big one amongst many others, is that if you don't ask, you will never get. I grew up, and I'm not sure if this is some toxic masculine trait, but I grew up seeing my father not wanting to ask for help, right? And I inherited that myself. But as I've been around more and more successful people, I've noticed that they're not scared to ask for help, right? When you ask, whether it is the human or the universe, you will receive. And so that is something that I constantly try to remind myself, as well as my very close friend circle. Pray for that thing. Pray for angels to come into your life, because they will, and the beauty of what you're looking for will come to you.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that you're more into holistic coaching right now. Okay. What do you think on the current trends of longevity, anti-aging, biohacking? What are your favorite protocols on this topic?
Look, my personal favorite would be the hot-cold contrast therapy.
Okay.
Right now, that is also a very basic entry-level protocol. There are drips with NAD and vitamin C and there are peptides, there are exosomes, there are stem cells. There is a long list of things you can do, a various list of blood tests that you can get that tell you what you need to do because genetically you're missing this and you have an imbalance in that. That is all very useful, right? But I am of the very strong belief that the foundation to all of good health and longevity, and perhaps even anti-aging at a cellular level, is mastering the foundations of health. That being nutrition, hydration, sleep, breathing, thinking, and moving.
Okay.
Right? If we don't have those pillars in line, if we haven't set that foundation, we're not going to get very high onto the pyramid. And these are also the most basic areas. I mean, the things I mentioned earlier, some of them are very expensive. Going to get blood tests can cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Buying a hyperbaric oxygen, very few human beings buy a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Most people will have some kind of membership to go to a social wellness club and then go into the hyperbaric. But that's very expensive too, right? At the entry level, we need to be able to eat whole foods, fresh and organic where possible. We need to be able to hydrate our body adequately, right? I have this saying, hydrate the hustle, right? We need to, as I say, rest to be your best, or sleep to reap, right? Sleep is truly the absolute foundation of youth and elixir. If you are not sleeping because society tells you sleep when you're dead or work harder, I guarantee you, you will not become the highest and most optimal version of yourself, right? All the studies back that up. If you are constantly having negative thoughts, when we think from a psychological perspective, you're going to be in a very, very bad place because you're constantly stressed. And then your cortisol is high, and then your insulin will rise, and then you have hormonal problems, and then you have a long list of doctors that you need to see, right? If you don't know how to breathe, you are going to be plagued with systemic pain from the morning to the evening, right? Learning how to breathe, which is a very simple process, but it's a God-given right and privilege, is imperative to optimal health and anti-aging and longevity. And then, of course, using your body, as I like to say, move to improve, strengthening your musculoskeletal system, adding lean muscle to your body. That is by a country mile one of the easiest ways to make sure that you age gracefully, to make sure that your brain is functioning optimally, to make sure that your body is supporting all of your endeavors in life.
Let's go back to sleep.
Mm.
How much sleep does a human need?
If we want to say that every single human being is biomechanically individual, which they are, there isn't an exact number. But if we want to use the generalized studies, of which there is a lot of science to back it up, we need to sleep at least 8 hours.
At least 8 hours.
I would go back and say at least 7 hours. And that's on my personal experience, because I can function on 7 hours. Not optimally, but I can function well. Ideally, we sleep 8 hours, and we sleep from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. This is the 8-hour window which our circadian rhythms are biologically wired to sleep. Within those 8 hours, the first 4 hours is going to be physiological repair. The second 4 hours of that sleep will be psychological repair. The more we miss those hours, the more damage is going to be happening to our body, or not the more damage, I would go to say the less repair is happening to our body.
Okay.
So yes, I say 8 is great in terms of hours of sleep, and 9 is divine, if you can get there.
Does the time of sleeping matters?
In terms of total quantity?
No.
The time,
The time, like, let's say 9 p.m., you need to sleep at night, compared to you, like, society says that, or like your work demands that you stay up late and you sleep at 6 in the morning until 3 in the...
Look, when you get down to shift work, it becomes very difficult. I've had a lot of clients that participated in shift work, and I've noticed there are certain common trends. Number one, there are definitely hormonal issues because their body is not regulating their hormones during the time it is designed to do so, right? So that is definitely a problem. I've noticed a lot of cognitive decline when people are working graveyard shifts or night shifts and they're missing their optimal sleeping hours. So yes, it is optimal that we sleep from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Plus minus 30 to 60 minutes is salvageable. If you're consistent in that pattern and you're still getting your 8 hours of sleep, your body can work. But when you start to get to constant shift work where you're always out of that time frame, it becomes very difficult.
Okay. Now back to the hot and cold contrast therapy that you were speaking about. Can you elaborate on that more?
The idea behind it is, and at the Xenos Health Summit, which I've been attending, there's been a few perspectives offered. So at least 3 times a week, you want to be doing 15 minutes of hot and cold therapy.
What's the ratio?
The ratio, in what sense? Hot to cold?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, like what? Hot to cold, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I generally want to be in the sauna or steam room, whichever is available, somewhere around the 15-minute mark. And then I'm going to take 2 to 3 minutes in the cold. Now, again, that varies. I've had people go in 1 degree water, and I've been in 1 degree water. 3 minutes is not easy. But I've been in 6 degree water or 7 degree water, and then 3 minutes is a lot easier. So that is certainly, that varies according to everyone's particular situation. But if you're in the region of 15 minutes of heat and 2 to 3 minutes of cold, you're doing well.
2 to 3 minutes of cold.
Yeah, 2 to 3 minutes of cold. And I like to think cold is gold. The colder it is, the better it is. The beauty of the cold, oftentimes I don't do the hot part. I just do the cold part, especially when I wake up and before I sleep. Okay. Right? The beauty of the cold is that you have to slow your breath down. When you get in the cold, you start to hyperventilate. That hyper meaning too much.
Yeah, too much.
So when a lot of people get in the cold, they do this. And basically they can't breathe and they have to get out. Yeah. It's like this fight or flight system kicks in and you have to escape. Most people end up flighting, right? if you can learn to go in the cold and then breathe calmly, everything will settle, right? The trick is, or the beauty of this is that the cold emulates stress,
Okay.
right? When you get in the cold, your heart rate will rise, your breath will rise. The exact same thing happens when you're stressed. If I use a simple example, if you are in traffic and you have to slam on your brakes and you almost have an accident, your heart is racing, right?
Yeah.
If you happen to be in a fight, your heart is going to race, your breath is going to race. If you get angry and have an argument, the same thing happens. So this is what happens when we are stressed. Cold is a simulation of stress. If you can train your body to manage stress when it's not stressed, when stress arises, your body automatically knows what to do. And that is to breathe slower and to calm down the body. When stress happens, the sympathetic nervous system will kick in. That's the fight or flight.
Yeah.
Right? Think of stress 200 years ago. You might have seen a tiger. You were out in the wild, and then it's a very good thing to be stressed at that point, right? Because you need to either kill and attack the tiger to defend your tribe, or you need to run up a tree or escape the tiger. At that point, it's a good thing that the sympathetic nervous system can kick in, and you will end up breathing through your mouth, and being in fight or flight mode is going to save your life. Nowadays, there is not tigers coming to get us, but we have the stress of life, be that finance, be that sitting in traffic, be that your boss, be that your mother-in-law, be that whatever it is, right? Stress is always there, but we as human beings have forgotten how to manage it, right? When we breathe slowly, ideally through our nose, and ideally we have a long exhalation, longer than our inhalation, that is going to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. In doing so, we tell our brain, so we use our body to communicate with our brain, we use our physiology to communicate with our psychology, that we are safe, that everything's okay. How that translates to is when you walk in and your boss starts shouting at you, you don't freak out. When you're in traffic and someone does something that you don't agree with, you're able to just breathe and keep going. And the accumulative benefit of that is that throughout your day, you have less stress.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, you have less stress. And so you sleep better and your relationships are better.
Yes.
And you're able to be more conscious in your decision making. You are not operating from this survival mode. This to me is the greater hack of being in a cold plunge, as opposed to just going in there. And yes, there is fat burning benefits. And yes, there is anti-inflammatory benefits. I love all of that. But what I most benefit from is me being in control of my breath. And if I can control my breath, I can control my body. If I can control my body, I can control my brain. If I control my brain, I can control my life. And this again is, for me, this is why exposing myself to cold, exposing myself to stress voluntarily, that to me is one of the greatest hacks to my health.
Stress. How deadly is stress?
It's the invisible killer. I'm not so sure, and I certainly have not looked into them, or I don't know the studies that show how tangibly detrimental stress is. But without a doubt, stress, at least by virtue of cortisol, which is a hormone that we can track, stress is correlated to all of our comorbidities. The more stress we have, the greater the chance of an imbalance in our body. When there is an imbalance, I say imbalance precedes dis-ease. Dis-ease precedes disease, and disease precedes death. Stress is the precursor to all of the imbalance, which then eventually leads to disease.
Disease.
Yeah.
Disease and then death,
Yeah.
eventually. Or something just breaks down.
Exactly.
Yes.
Sooner or later.
Yes, sooner or later. What are the most important exercise or habits to promote longevity or
Physical exercises?
mm,
Look, I think there would be contested ideas around this.
yeah.
I think some of the studies have shown certain isometrics are best
Mm.
because they correlate to blood pressure and improving how the heart is functioning. From my perspective, when our physical body has more lean muscle, when our musculoskeletal system is in balance, that is a very positive effect towards our health, right? So doing compound movements and building more muscle is always a good thing.
Mm.
I would also heavily encourage having a certain baseline of cardiovascular health. Cardiovascular obviously refers to our lung capacity and our heart capacity.
Yeah.
It's a very good idea to have certain benchmarks to be able to run 30 minutes.
Without stopping.
That's a very good idea. If you can do that once a week, that's going to be a big positive.
Mm.
So, you know, being able to lift weights, resistance on your body, that benefits the muscles as well as the skeleton. Being able to do monostructural exercises, whether it's running, rowing, skipping, skiing, assault biking, whatever it is, having a baseline and doing it on a regular basis, that is a very simple starting point to any human being getting fitter and healthier and ultimately making positive contributions towards their longevity.
How about habits? What habits would you recommend to promote longevity?
Look, the most important habit that we can form is being consistent, right? I would say the habit of working out is the lead domino to everything else, right? When I have a good workout in the morning and I sweat and then I have a cold bath or a cold shower thereafter, I have endorphins kicking in. I'm producing real dopamine, not the kind of dopamine that's a quick hit from your phone or social media.
Yeah.
Right? There is serotonin being produced. So I would say the greatest habit one can form as per their longevity is to consistently work out. I have this idea of move to improve. A lot of people mistake that to mean you have to go to the gym. Move to improve is literally doing something functional, and important to note that the word fun is the first three letters in functional, right? Something that is functional, something that is sustainable, something that you're able to do consistently. Doing that to start your day, I would suggest that to be the most important habit for a human being to get healthier. And of course, that is a positive contributor towards longevity.
What are the common mistakes people are making to prevent optimal health?
Look, if I go through these pillars of health, if we start with nutrition, I think the most common mistake is that people are eating out of packets. That meaning something which has been processed, right? Generally, when something goes through a process or there is preservatives added to it, it's to make sure that the shelf life is longer. So ultimately, whoever's making that food has a greater chance of profits, right? This is industry.
Yes.
So the biggest mistake from a nutrition perspective is assuming that food is in a packet, right? Food is whole foods. An apple doesn't come in a packet. Most foods will be weighed and priced accordingly, right? Ideally, it can be organic, local, seasonal. If not possible, still eat whole foods. From an hydration perspective, people just don't drink enough water. I could get into the details about fluoride and certain qualities of water that should be from an artisan source or from a well. But the first step is to drink enough water, right? From the sleep perspective, again, our problem is not as much in quality of sleep as it is in quantity of sleep. Thereafter, the consistency of the timing, that's your next step. From a psychological perspective, I would say we need to avoid stinking thinking. Right? I think that's a quote I got from Zig Ziglar. And most of our thoughts are negative. So if we can simply be more positive between our ears, as I've heard from practitioners with much more experience and knowledge than myself, the greatest pharmacy you have is within your ears, right? From a breathing perspective, we need to slow down. We're currently breathing too much. On average, we're breathing 25,900 times a day. That's way too much, right? Most people are breathing 12 to 18 breaths a minute. Ideally, you should be breathing less than 12. If you can breathe 6 breaths a minute, I guarantee you the entirety of your internal and external state will change for the better. And then from a movement perspective, again, I would come back to consistency. Our biggest problem, I don't need to tell people that they need to work out. Most people know that they need to work out. They just need to consistently, habitually show up. And the rest of it really starts to take shape by itself.
You spoke about nutrition, how we should eat whole foods and eat like unpacked foods. What do you think about supplements?
Look, I'm a big advocate. I use supplements every single day. I do have certain periods where I'll be completely off of supplements, and that's just to give my body a break, right? What I would say as a starting point is make sure that you're using high quality supplements. If you are using low quality supplements, they can cause as much damage as junk food per se. Remember that every time you're putting a pill into your body, there is a process that needs to happen to actually get that pill into your system, right? Putting too many pills, because there are people who have 10, 15, 20 pills a day, your liver has to deal with all of that.
Yes.
Right? So I would say from a supplements perspective, focus on quality, right? Try and research the company that you're getting products from. Try and align with the values of that company, right? The next area I'd say we're getting wrong with supplements is that many people are guessing, right? Most people do need magnesium and vitamin D3, for example, right? But not everyone does. If you have a deficiency and you are not supplementing to help that deficiency, you're probably making it worse, right? Any imbalance, our supplements should be used to make sure that we come to equilibrium.
Yes.
Many people would just take magnesium for the sake of taking magnesium. Many people would just take protein for the sake of taking protein.
Yeah.
Not everyone needs to be taking magnesium or protein, as a simple example. So what I would say is assess, don't guess. Find a practitioner that is skilled, that has experience, that is well-versed in supplementation, and work with that person to fix the imbalances that you are currently dealing with. And thereafter find a supplement stack that suits you and your lifestyle and your goals and your needs.
If you would recommend 3 supplements for a human being to take, what would it be?
Full disclosure, I am affiliated to a supplement company.
Okay.
That being Symbiotica in the Middle East, right? Phenomenal company. In my opinion, Symbiotica is the best supplement brand on the planet when it comes to general supplementation, right? I would suggest every human being needs to be taking molecular hydrogen, right? That's the strongest and smallest antioxidant in the world. Excuse me. That helps us fight off free radicals and anything that's harmful in the body. Molecular hydrogen is helping us combat that. The second place, I would say, and this is also specific to the Middle East, would be good hydration. Most human beings are chronically hydrated. I see that in my personal and professional life, right? So adding a good hydration supplementation, that's very useful. And then the third part, just because it covers so many things, would be a good probiotic.
A good probiotic.
If you have a good probiotic, if you have molecular hydrogen, if you have good hydration, that is an excellent foundation to improving your health.
What biomarkers best predict your health outcomes?
I'm going to give you a less scientific answer because currently I'm not as well versed in all of the science and academia as scientists or doctors are.
Yeah.
What they have found is that leg strength, grip strength, and lung capacity are directly correlated to our morbidity rates. If you can improve your leg strength, if you can improve your grip strength, if you can improve your lung capacity, there is less chance of dying, because the number one cause of death over the age of 65 is a broken hip or hip fracture. And that happens when people fall, right? If you can catch yourself either with your hands or your legs when you're falling, if you're strong enough to do that, you won't fall, right? If you can hold your breath when you inhale and hold, and when you exhale and hold longer and longer and longer, that's a direct indication that your lungs and your heart are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Those are the three simplest places to start.
How can we fix the simple things before it's too late?
This is a very open-ended question. In my opinion, I have this saying, consistency, or I have this equation, consistency is greater than novelty. That being, doing the things that you are meant to be doing consistently, correctly, as opposed to adding more new things.
Yeah.
We're living in a world which is constantly telling us we need something else in order to be healthy, in order to be happy, in order to have better relationships, X, Y, and Z. But if you can consistently do things correctly, I believe that that is the lead domino to everything falling in line.
It's good. You've become interested in spirituality lately. Yes. Can you speak more about that?
I was always, I wouldn't say interested in spirituality. I would say I was always spiritual in the sense that I always knew and felt there was something greater. Even though, like I said, I didn't grow up in a religious practicing environment, I still had a Bible at my bedside my entire life. To this very day, the Bible is still at my bedside where I grew up. Now, there is also a Quran there, right? At my bedside now, where I sleep in Saudi Arabia, I have a Quran at my bedside. That is, in a sense, just symbolic of my spiritual journey. But I have always believed and known that there is something greater. I think my most recent interest has come as a result of the people I've been around. There is a saying, you are the average of the 5 people you most associate with.
Yeah.
And in the last decade in Saudi Arabia, I've been very lucky to have very spiritual beings around me, people whom I can have a conversation with on any topic, and they can give me an answer that resonates on a spiritual level. And so the more I've been around these spiritual beings, the more I have grown in my spirituality. And from there, I've had further learnings by myself, or I've looked into specific areas where I've wanted to grow or learn and understand more.
Is spirituality limited to humans, or does it go beyond us?
You mean animals,
Yes.
plants? 100%. I have no doubt in my mind. I have a cat. I have a relationship with that cat. I think he prefers his mom, my nanny, more than me. But when I meditate every morning, I don't make much noise, or I don't call him. But when I open my eyes from my meditation, he's next to me and he's purring. I have no doubt that I have a relationship with him. I also have a lot of plants in my house, and the plant which grows the best is the plant that I meditate underneath. Every single day I look up at this plant. Every single day I am meditating and I am giving my frequency to that plant. I'm very sure it's also giving its frequency to me, right? So in this sense, I believe everything has a soul, and we as human souls, I think when we start to function in harmony with everything around us, right? The people who live in nature, it's innate to them that they are not the only living organism. Everything around them is living.
It's living. Also,
It's alive. So yes, without a shadow of a doubt, I believe that spirituality extends far beyond
humans.
you and I.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your best practice when you wake up first thing in the morning?
Drink water. I mean, I wake up and I say Alhamdulillah. I wake up and I express gratitude. That, if you want the very first thing,
Yeah.
as soon as I open my eyes, I start to give gratitude. There is a great health practitioner. His name is Ben Azadi, and he speaks about vitamin G.
Okay. What is vitamin G?
Exactly. What is vitamin G?
Yeah.
So he will share with you all of the positive outcomes when you have more vitamin G in your life. And then he gets to the point, he says, vitamin G is gratitude. Expressing gratitude lowers your stress. Expressing gratitude improves your relationship. Expressing gratitude feels better in your body. Expressing gratitude, when I see you and I smile, you smile back.
Yeah.
Right? Love, if that is the highest form of gratitude, is a boomerang. When you give it, it comes back to you. Right? So I would say, even before I drink water, I express gratitude.
And then you drink water.
And then I drink water, typically with molecular hydrogen in it. And then I want to get some sunshine, move my body a little bit. I'm just waking up. I'm just seeing what is stiff in my body. I'm stretching a little bit. I'm moving this way. I do some breath work, right? I like to see the sun within the first 5 minutes of waking up. I stay away from my phone, right? I try to avoid my phone. I'm typically going to walk out the door within 90 minutes of being awake. And thereafter, I would then expose myself to the phone. And ideally, as long a delay as possible to social media.
As long as you can.
As long as I can. But I must admit, it's never very long.
Yeah. Can you give to our listeners who are new to breathwork, can you give like a very, very simple protocol to start doing it?
The most simple thing, I would say, when we talk about breathing,
yes,
is to normalize breathing through your nose. Right? The mouth, contrary to popular belief, was designed for consumption and communication. It is a backup mechanism for breathing. The nose was primarily designed to breathe and then to smell. Right? So if you can do one thing that's going to make a positive difference towards your breath and your health, literally shut your mouth. It doesn't work well if you say it to your wife or your girlfriend.
Definitely.
But yeah. I mean, be careful with that. But literally close your mouth and breathe through your nose. That is the lead domino towards all the improvements that will come from breathing towards all of your health.
You've mentioned earlier that the longer or the more longer that you can hold your breath, the better, right? For the beginners who wants to try this, what tempo would you recommend, or seconds, or time that would you recommend to inhale and exhale?
Okay, so if we want to speak about, I'll give you a few ideas.
Yeah.
One idea is coherence breathing. If you can breathe in for 6 seconds and out for 6 seconds with no pauses, if you can do that for 15 minutes, I can almost assure you every piece of your body, mind, and soul will be closer to peace and harmony than what you were before, right? If you want to speak about breath holds,
Yeah.
right? So Wim Hof, I think, is probably one of the best protocols to start with, which is simply 30 breaths in and out, right? You can go on YouTube. You can get guided in this regard. It's not complicated. And then there is an inhale and a hold, and you will get towards a certain point. So for me to say that everyone should be able to hold their breath for 60 seconds is a very vague answer, right? When you do the Wim Hof breathing, you would inhale and you would get to a certain point where you don't want to be kind of about to burst. So you want to stop a little bit before that, and that's subjective to every human being relative to their pain threshold as well as to their lung capacity, right? If you can inhale to that point and then exhale and hold again, and typically you would be able to hold your exhale for longer than your inhale, that's a very good starting protocol. If you are looking for a start to breath work, I would say Wim Hof's method.
Wim Hof's.
That is the easiest and science-backed approach to start with. Thereafter, I love coherence breathing, which is 6 in, 6 out. And thereafter, we can get into 4, 7, 8. We can get into box breathing, 5, 5, 5, 5, right? The double inhale, slow exhale. That is the fastest way to lower our stress. So even as you're sitting there right now and I'm speaking, you can do two inhales and a very slow exhale. The reason I love this, and with a lot of my executive clients, I would tell them to do this during their meetings, because we can be having a conversation and you can double inhale, slow exhale 10 times before you need to speak, but you can do that without me noticing. It doesn't require anything big, right? So the double inhale, slow exhale, and Dr. Andrew Huberman speaks about this a lot. This is the fastest, quickest protocol using your breath to lower your stress.
Knowing you, you know, I visited your house in Jeddah, been to your house. You love books. Yeah, you love books. What books have you most enjoyed in your readings?
I've read far and wide, thankfully so. Interestingly enough, I think for the first 18 years of my life, I don't think I read more than 5 books. I did not like reading at all, right? One of the books in those 5 books was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And that was really just because it was more of a cartoon. It was a page turner. And the objective of the book was something to do with chocolate, right? From the age of 19, 20, I was gifted 1 or 2 books that had a profound impact on my life. And since then, I've not stopped. I have also noticed that the people I look up to the most, the people I respect the most, are the people who have read the most. The people I most want to be like are the people who have read way more than I have, right? That is obviously a personal preference. If I'm going to go into certain books, undoubtedly Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of Titans, which is a summary of all the podcasts he's done and all of the high performers he's spoken to. And then he summarized the best takeaways from each episode. So you can basically go there and see on the topic of health, wealth, and happiness, what the best in the world has had to say. Right? That was profound. Definitely there is a book, Who Moved My Cheese, that is short and sweet. I love that book because whether a 4-year-old or not a 4-year-old, maybe a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old was reading it, both of them can have a positive takeaway from it. And it's going to take you 45 minutes if you're a slow reader, right? Very simple, easy book. I wouldn't make suggestions on religious books because everyone has their religious preferences and individualities. I would definitely point towards, from a business perspective, the best book I read is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, serial entrepreneur, founder of PayPal, founder of multiple other extremely successful companies. That for me was definitely one that moved the needle. From the perspective of being healthy, I think the entry point would be Atomic Habits. Simply because...
I have that here.
Yes, you do. Simply because You need to start making habits and healthy habits before everything else can change. Thereafter, if you want to get really deep into reading, I would point you towards a book called How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy by Paul Chek, which is a book that transformed my life. It's a deep read. There's a lot of work to be done when you're reading that book. And then if you really want to go to the depths of it all, there's a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, which is very in depth. It's a hard read. If you're just an enthusiast, you don't need to read that book. But if there are certain topics that you want book recommendations, that would help my brain to direct you in a certain place.
Definitely, I would ask you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also another question. What's one unknown hobby you keep?
Good question. I would say, I think I have multiple unknown hobbies. I don't want to let you know all of them. No, but the hobby that I keep, which is something I really love, and it helps me access, I want to say, my more creative side, or perhaps even a more feminine side, is poetry. I love reading, studying, and writing poetry. So that's definitely an area that I like. Khalil Gibran is a wonderful poet. Mahmoud Darwish, Rumi. These are some of my favorites that I enjoy reading.
Would you like to share a little bit of it?
I mean, I can give you some of Rumi's lines, which, as you walk, the way appears.
Yes, definitely.
What you seek is seeking you. Mahmoud Darwish, I couldn't necessarily recite any poems, but I really love the way in which he brings a message across. He is, I think, Lebanese or Palestinian. He has a lot of very good descriptions of the land. He speaks about olive trees. The way he describes emotions is wonderful. And then Khalil Gibran, his book, The Prophet, is one of my favorite books. Add that to the list of must reads for sure, on various different topics. It seems to me that it wasn't just him writing, he was channeling something higher. And that's something I enjoy when I'm participating or writing my own poetry. Sometimes I'm accessing creative parts of myself that my daily life cannot tap into.
You spoke about habits earlier. What's one simple habit everyone should start today?
Move to improve. Right? If you simply make sure that you do some form of a functional workout every day, or even 6 days a week, but you move your body consistently. This is the lead domino, in my opinion, to every other pillar of health. Once I've done a good workout, I don't want to eat junk food, I want to eat healthy food. Once I eat healthy food, I'm putting good energy and information into my body, and I'm then making optimal choices. I'm then more productive. I'm then able to be a better version of myself. I have less stress. I sleep better. My thoughts are more positive. I am growing, right? That, to me, moving consistently, that is the lead domino towards a human being improving their health and their life as a whole.
All right. Where can listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
I've traditionally not enjoyed social media so much, but I'm starting to participate more. Instagram is the easiest place. Gareth Grundlingh is where you can find me. And I will do my very best to get back to you if there is any questions. And I will also endeavor to post a healthy approach to life and hopefully encourage one or two people along the way to improve their life, to become healthier versions of themselves, and to ultimately grow into their highest beings.
There you go, Gareth. Thank you very much, bro.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much.
Much appreciated.